New videos every day.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vincent Bellonzi. Let's talk a little bit about people that need all these extra stimulants. Caffeine, MSG, there's a lot of different things we can talk about. If you need caffeine, if you're dependent on it, it's just like being dependent on a drug. And I don't want that for you. If you have to have that coffee, if you have to go drink that soda just to get through your day, you're in trouble. So let's talk about getting away from that. I don't care if once in a while you use a little caffeine, use a little stimulant to take care of feeling a little bit better. But if you need it every day, if you can't function without it, you're on your way to some real problems. You're overstimulating your adrenal glands. You're causing yourself some real long-term problems. Now, we do a lot of testing in the way of looking at cortisol and melatonin. These are things that, in a sense, run your daily clock. But if you push your adrenal glands far enough, you go from that high stress feeling to just total exhaustion. If you burn your adrenals out, it's a long time coming back. Now, I never believe anybody's a lost cause. But if you keep stimulating artificially those adrenal glands, if you keep driving that cortisol out there and those other stress hormones like adrenaline, then you're going to create problems. Your body can't keep up. You can't continue to do that and hold up forever, or even throughout your lifetime, or perhaps even for a very short time. You push it far enough, the body will give up. It's got a really good regenerative capacity, but you can push it further than it can make up. So if you're using caffeine because you need it, let's take another look at what you're going to need to do. You may want to have your cortisol level checked because it's an important distinction whether you have a high cortisol level or whether the cortisol level has gone so low because your adrenal glands have actually given out, which can happen. There's going to be a different approach to either one. Now, of course, I want you to control the stress that would drive that into exhaustion. But realize that the caffeine, the drugs, the things that you take and put into your body, that all has to be metabolized. It all has to be taken care of. Caffeine is a stress on the body by itself, not only to the adrenal glands, but you know that it works your liver pretty strongly. So one important concept that we talk about in our office is detoxification. If I'm using a lot of caffeine, my liver has to be busy getting rid of that drug, basically, and other drugs that I take. I've suddenly interrupted my ability to clear my body from other things that are going to interfere with its function. And as we talked about before, if I interfere at all with my body being able to function, I'm going to have disease. I'll have symptoms, I'll have diseases, I'll have problems. If you want your body healthy, then give it a chance. So again, if you're dependent on the caffeine, you need to find another way to get through the day. And it is going to come down to what you do in your lifestyle. That's always what it starts with. What are you eating? Are you feeding your body the nutrients that it needs? You know, if you're always stressing your body, and again, the caffeine's another stress, then it's going to give out. It's going to burn through those B vitamins. It's going to burn through other nutrients, and you're going to end up with deficiencies in other places. You're stealing from one area to feed another. So again, if you're using caffeine to that extent, even if it's just a cup of coffee to get started in the morning, or whatever form of caffeine that you're taking, it's not doing you as much good as you think. Because there will be a point where it takes more and more. And then there's a point where it just doesn't matter. You won't even get a response. Do you really want to take your body that far? I'm hoping you can come back from that, but it's not the answer. If you simply eat better foods that give you the nutrients that you need and get enough activity so you can activate your metabolism and have it work correctly, you won't need the caffeine. Again, I'm not saying never ever have caffeine, but if it's a daily need, if you need a fix, then it's time to turn that around. Caffeine in a small amount can help performance. That's been studied. But the people that need it all the time, that's who comes into the office with chronic fatigue, with other health problems. And it's because they've taken their body to that point where it cannot recover. They've overtrained. They've overdone it. Your body, you can work with it instead of against it. So look at what your dependencies are. Look at what you're tied to. And see if you can operate independently of it. You need to eat good food. There's no getting away from it. Your body needs the fuel. It needs the essential nutrients. You need to be active. Because if you're not active, you won't have the metabolic processes working. If you're not active, your body won't even make things that it needs for day-to-day operation, which is probably why you need the caffeine. You're not exercising. You're not taking care of yourself. The body can't work. So you give it a good swift kick. But you can only kick so many times before it just won't respond. So we can use caffeine in some ways to benefit, but if we use it all the time, we're going to end up with problems. So don't get dependent on it. I don't want you dependent on anything except clean water, food, and activity. Don't use caffeine. Don't abuse it. Don't abuse anything because it ends up coming back on you. Whatever drug we want to talk about. It has its time, it has its place. But you want to be self-sufficient. You want to be able to do without it. And the end product of using the caffeine is an actual destruction of certain processes and even certain tissues. I mean, you can do permanent damage. So use a little, but use restraint. Don't get dependent. Caffeine can be dangerous. Use it appropriately. Remember that self-sufficiency comes from taking care of yourself. And that's really the message out of most of the videos that I've done here. So, again, if you're using caffeine, if you've pushed your adrenals to a point of exhaustion, then you're going to need some help. A lot of that help comes from better nutrition. There are some herbs called adaptogens, and that's exactly what they do, is make the body adapt or help the body to adapt. Sometimes we can use those. Look at the way that your sleep and wake cycle is to know if you've taken it too far. Are you getting your good 7.5 hours of sleep? Do you fall asleep in about 15 minutes? I don't want you to fall asleep in 5 minutes. If you hit the pillow and you're asleep, it's a pretty good test or sign that you're overstressed. You're fatigued. You're in trouble. Also, if you have trouble getting up in the morning, that means things are off as well. You're not even producing enough cortisol to wake you up. Now, cortisol gets you up, and then the levels fall off through the day. You should slowly get, not to a point of fatigue, but you'll get less and less stimulated until nighttime when your body's looking for some sleep or rest. And then melatonin starts to show up. That's a daily cycle that's repeated each day, and you want to work with it, not against it. So if you're getting enough sleep, hopefully not waking up in the middle of the night either, and you get up and have a productive day, that's normal. If you can't do that, then you've probably already pushed it too far. It's time to bring it back before it goes into total exhaustion. Again, if your daily cycle looks good, then just start taking better care. But if you find that you're in exhaustion, don't just use caffeine to try to counteract it, because there will be a point of almost no return. So use drugs, caffeine, even sugar, in a sense, can be like a drug, is like a drug, even though it's a fuel. Be careful how you use these things. You want to work with your body and not against it. I want you to take care on what you do to your own body. Now, there are a lot of ways to manage stress. And overstimulating your body to the point that it gives up is not the way to do it. So, be careful, again. Use caffeine, but don't overuse it. And don't ever get dependent on anything.